The research vessel Zenith hung in low Earth orbit, its crystalline hull refracting sunlight into 1,000 prismatic patterns. Chief researcher Valthera stood before the ship's primary observation window, her iridescent scales shifting from deep blue to concerned purple as she studied the readings before her. "Impossible," she muttered, her secondary breathing chambers fluttering in agitation. "Run the biological scan again." Her assistant, Kex, a being composed primarily of organized plasma contained within an environmental suit, pulsed with nervous energy. "Chief, we've already run it 17 times. The results remain consistent." Valthera's claws clicked against the control panel in frustration. The Zenith carried the most advanced biological detection equipment in the known galaxy. It could identify individual microorganisms from orbit, track complex biological processes in real time, and map entire ecosystems within minutes. Yet somehow, on this unremarkable blue planet, their readings made no sense. "According to these scans," Valthera said, her voice tight with scientific confusion, "this planet's microscopic life forms are simultaneously primitive and impossibly sophisticated. The evolutionary patterns are chaotic, aggressive. Nothing like this exists anywhere else in the documented galaxy." The ship's eye, a quantum consciousness named HFY, manifested as a holographic display beside them. "Chief Researcher, I feel compelled to point out that our standard containment protocols may be insufficient for this environment." Valthera dismissed the concern with a wave of her scaled hand. "HFY, we've successfully studied thousands of worlds. Our containment technology is based on universal biological principles. What could possibly penetrate our shields?" The answer came sooner than anyone expected. The first landing party consisted of 3 researchers in the most advanced environmental suits ever created. They touched down in a remote location designated as Australian Outback by the local dominant species. Their mission was simple: collect samples and establish preliminary contact with the indigenous microscopic life forms. The suits were designed to withstand everything from extreme radiation to corrosive atmospheres. They could repel any known biological agent and maintain perfect internal homeostasis in virtually any environment. They had never failed. Until now. "Chief," Kex's voice crackled over the comm system, his plasma form fluctuating wildly with alarm. "We're detecting a breach in Landing Party 1's containment fields." Valthera rushed to the monitoring station, her scales now a pale shade of fear-white. The environmental suit's readings were unprecedented. Microscopic organisms were somehow penetrating the quantum-sealed barriers, finding ways through defenses that should have been impenetrable. "How?" she demanded, watching in horror as the suit's integrity began to fail. "What are these things?" Aria's holographic form flickered with rapid calculations. "Analysis indicates the presence of multiple unknown biological agents. They appear to be adapting, evolving in real time to overcome our defenses." The landing party's vital signs began to fluctuate wildly. Their screams came through the comm system, distorted by static and terror. Within minutes, all 3 researchers were dead, their bodies overcome by countless microscopic invaders that their advanced technology had failed to detect or defend against. Valthera stood in stunned silence, watching as the monitoring equipment continued to record the impossible. The microscopic life forms weren't just surviving. They were thriving, using the advanced materials of the environmental suits as new breeding grounds. "Era," she finally managed to speak, her voice barely a whisper. "Send an emergency transmission to the Galactic Council. Classification: Omega Priority." The AI's holographic form pulsed with acknowledgement. Message parameters. Valthera's scales shifted to the deep red of urgent warning as she composed the message that would change the galaxy's understanding of life itself. Planet Earth to be immediately classified as extreme hazard zone. Indigenous microscopic life forms demonstrate unprecedented adaptive capabilities. Standard containment protocols ineffective. 3 researchers lost. Most significant finding: These organisms are not weapons. They are not engineered. This is their natural state. They evolved this way. And if the microscopic life forms are this lethal, what else has this death world produced? As the message was transmitted across the vast distances of space, Valthera looked down at the seemingly peaceful blue planet below. From orbit, it appeared so harmless, so inviting. But now she understood the truth. Earth wasn't just another world to study. It was nature's ultimate proving ground, where life had been forced to become deadlier than anything their advanced civilization had ever encountered. The Zenith's engines hummed to life as Valthera gave the order to increase their orbital distance. As they pulled away from Earth, she made a final log entry. In our quest to find life among the stars, we never considered that some life might be too powerful for us to safely study. Earth's greatest weapons aren't its technology or its dominant species. They're the countless invisible warriors that evolution has forged in the planet's unforgiving crucible. We came looking for primitive life forms to study. Instead, we found nature's perfect defenders, and they have already won the war we didn't even know we were fighting. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with an energy not seen in centuries. Representatives from 1,000 worlds filled the crystalline amphitheater, their varied forms creating a living tapestry of galactic diversity. At the center of it all, Chief Researcher Valthera's holographic form projected her findings, the images of Earth's microscopic defenders drawing gasps and murmurs from the assembled delegates. High Counselor Zixthat, a being of pure energy contained within an ancient ceremonial vessel, pulsed with concern. Let me understand this correctly, Chief Researcher. You're suggesting we classify an entire planet as a Level X quarantine zone because of bacteria. Valthera's scales shifted to the deep green of absolute certainty. Not just bacteria, High Counselor. Earth's entire microscopic ecosystem is unlike anything we've encountered. Their smallest life forms have evolved capabilities that rival our most advanced defensive technologies. The militant representative of the Karnak Empire, a massive insectoid being encased in living armor, clicked his mandibles in derision. Preposterous. Our bioarmor can adapt to any threat. We have conquered worlds far more hostile than this. Earth. With respect, Representative, Valthera responded. Bringing up new data streams. Your bioarmor wouldn't last 5 minutes on Earth's surface. We lost 3 researchers in fully shielded environmental suits to organisms we couldn't even detect with our most sophisticated scanners. The chamber erupted in overlapping voices and electromagnetic pulses of discord. Valthera watched as the counselors argued amongst themselves, knowing that none of them truly understood the magnitude of what they'd discovered. Dr. Rayleth, the council's chief xenobiologist, floated forward on a cushion of anti-gravity. His crystalline form refracted light in patterns indicating deep thought. Perhaps we should discuss the implications of such evolution. A planet where microscopic life forms developed such aggressive defense mechanisms. What does this tell us about the dominant species? A heavy silence fell over the chamber. Valthera brought up an image of a human city. The species calls themselves humans. They appear unremarkable at first glance, but consider this. They evolved alongside these microscopic warriors. Their immune systems wage wars daily that would devastate most advanced civilizations. They don't just survive on their death world. They thrive there. The Karnak representative's armor plates rattled with agitation. Then we should eliminate this threat before they realize their potential. Our fleet stands ready to. Your fleet would never reach the surface, interrupted a new voice. All attention turned to a small, unassuming figure entering the chamber. Dr. Sarah Chen, Earth's first official representative to the Galactic Council, walked calmly to the center of the chamber. She carried no weapons, wore no armor, and yet her presence commanded attention. The Zenith's experience wasn't unique, Dr. Chen explained, her voice carrying clearly through the translator fields. Earth's biosphere is our first and most effective line of defense. But it's not a weapon we control. It's our home, and we've learned to live in harmony with it. Valthera's scales rippled with interest as she observed the human scientist. Here was a being who had evolved on a world that could kill most advanced species within minutes, yet she stood before them without any protective gear. The real question, Dr. Chen continued, isn't whether to quarantine Earth. It's whether you're ready to learn from us. Our microscopic allies aren't just defenders. They're teachers. They've taught us resilience, adaptation, and the true meaning of coexistence with nature. The High Counselor's energy form flickered thoughtfully. What are you proposing, Dr. Chen? A collaborative research initiative, she replied, producing a small vial from her pocket. This contains a harmless sample of common Earth soil bacteria. Under controlled conditions, they can help advance your medical technology by centuries. We're not offering weapons, we're offering evolution's greatest lessons. The chamber erupted again, but this time with a different energy. The fear was still there, but now mixed with curiosity and cautious hope. Valthera watched as the human scientist fielded questions from the council, explaining concepts that challenged their most fundamental understanding of life itself. As the session continued, Valthera made a private notation in her research log. Perhaps our greatest mistake was assuming that advanced civilization meant dominating nature. Earth and its inhabitants teach us a different truth. True advancement comes from learning to thrive within nature's crucible, not trying to conquer it. The humans don't control their world's microscopic defenders. They've learned to live alongside them, gaining strength from the very forces that would destroy less adapted species. This isn't just about quarantine protocols anymore. This is about redefining our understanding of what it means to be truly advanced. The debate would continue for days, but the outcome was already clear. Earth wouldn't be quarantined. It would be studied, respected, and perhaps even feared a little. And its inhabitants, these remarkable humans, would help guide the galaxy toward a new understanding of life's infinite possibilities, one microscopic lesson at a time. The Galactic Research Station Helios hung in high Earth orbit, its laboratories buzzing with activity as scientists from across the galaxy worked to understand the planet's microscopic mysteries. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the main observation window, watching shuttles ferry carefully contained samples between Earth and the station. Behind her, a heated discussion was taking place between some of the galaxy's finest minds. Impossible, declared Chief Biologist Ingsvora, his crystalline form clouding with frustration. The rate of adaptation we're observing defies all known laws of evolution. These organisms aren't just surviving our containment measures, they're learning from them. Dr. Chen smiled, remembering her own early days of research. That's because you're thinking of evolution as a slow, gradual process. On Earth, it's more like an arms race that never ended. The station's newest arrival, Dr. Kuhl, a being of pure energy contained within an advanced environmental suit, moved closer to the observation window. But how do you humans survive in such an environment? Our latest tests show that a single gram of Earth soil contains enough potentially lethal organisms to overwhelm most species' immune systems. Sarah walked to a nearby console and pulled up a holographic display of human cellular structure. The answer lies in our own evolution. We didn't just survive alongside these organisms, we evolved because of them. Our immune systems are constantly at war, and that war made us stronger. The station's AI, NEXUS, projected a holographic representation of the latest test results. Dr. Chen is correct. Analysis shows that human cellular defense mechanisms are exponentially more sophisticated than those of any known species. They appear to have developed in response to continuous exposure to Earth's aggressive microbiome. The assembled scientists watched in fascination as the hologram demonstrated how human immune cells fought off invaders that would devastate most advanced species. Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of pride, not in any technological achievement, but in the sheer resilience of life itself. But there's something else you need to understand, she continued, switching the display to show various Earth environments. These organisms aren't our enemies. They're our partners in survival. For every potentially harmful bacterium or virus, There are thousands more that help maintain our planet's delicate balance. Dr. Catal's energy form pulsed with curiosity. You mean you've domesticated them? Sarah laughed, the sound echoing through the station's pristine chambers. No more than we've domesticated the wind or tamed the ocean. We've learned to work with them, to understand their role in the greater ecosystem. That's what makes Earth unique. It's not just a battlefield, it's a testament to the power of adaptation and coexistence. Angstvora's crystalline form shifted to a deeper shade of blue, indicating deep thought. This morning, I watched a human maintenance worker handle equipment with bare hands, equipment that had been exposed to Earth's atmosphere. Our sensors detected millions of microorganisms on the surface, yet she seemed unconcerned. Because she understands something that took your civilization centuries to discover, Sarah explained. Life isn't about achieving perfect sterility or building impenetrable barriers. It's about finding balance, about becoming strong enough to exist alongside other forms of life, no matter how small or seemingly dangerous. The station shuddered slightly as another research shuttle docked. Through the window, Sarah could see the elaborate containment procedures being followed, procedures that seemed almost comedically overcautious to her human perspective. I have a proposal, she announced, turning to face the assembled scientists. Instead of trying to study our microscopic life forms through barriers and shields, why not learn how we work with them? Your civilizations have achieved incredible technological advancement, but you've forgotten something crucial along the way: the art of biological adaptation. The suggestion sent ripples of concern through the gathered researchers. Catal's energy form flickered anxiously. You mean, intentionally expose ourselves to Earth's microbiome? Under carefully controlled conditions, yes, Sarah confirmed. We'll start small, controlled exposure to beneficial organisms, gradually building up resistance. It's how human children develop their immune systems. It's how our species learn to thrive in what you call a death world. NetXU has projected new simulations showing potential protocols for such an undertaking. Based on available data, Dr. Chen's suggestion has merit. Controlled exposure could potentially revolutionize galactic understanding of biological adaptation. As the scientists debated the proposal, Sarah returned to the window, gazing down at the blue planet below. She understood their fear. It was the same fear humanity had once held toward the invisible world that surrounded them. But they had learned to overcome that fear, to embrace the complexity of life in all its forms. Consider this, she said softly. But every being in the room turned to listen. Every human carries within them a universe of microscopic life. We are not just individuals. We are walking ecosystems, living proof that strength comes not from isolation, but from learning to thrive within nature's greatest challenges. That's the real lesson Earth has to teach the galaxy. The question is, are you ready to learn it? The silence that followed was heavy with possibility. In that moment, on a station hovering between the stars and a planet that defied explanation, the future of galactic evolution hung in the balance. And Sarah Chen, a human scientist standing calmly in an environment that would kill most advanced species, waited patiently for their answer. The transformation chamber aboard the Helios research station glowed with a soft blue light as the first volunteer prepared for exposure. Dr. Catal's energy form pulsed nervously within their containment suit as Dr. Chen made final adjustments to the equipment. This was either the beginning of a new era in galactic evolution or a catastrophic mistake. Are you certain about this? Catal asked, their voice modulator betraying their anxiety. Once we begin, there's no going back. Sarah checked the readings one final time. Your species' energy form gives you unique advantages. If anyone can successfully adapt to Earth's microbiome, it's you. Remember, we're starting with the most beneficial organisms first. From the observation deck above, Chief Biologist Angstvoda and a team of scientists watched intently. The stakes couldn't be higher. Success would validate humanity's approach to biological adaptation, while failure would vindicate those who argued for Earth's permanent quarantine. Beginning controlled exposure, Sarah announced, introducing sample E147, a common soil bacterium that helps regulate immune responses in Earth organisms. The chamber hummed as microscopic particles were released into Ketal's containment field. For several tense moments, nothing seemed to happen. Then Ketal's energy form began to shift, displaying patterns never before seen in their species. "Remarkable," Ketal whispered. "I can feel them. They're not attacking. They're trying to communicate." Sarah smiled. That's exactly what happened during Earth's evolutionary history. Life forms didn't just fight each other. They learned to exchange information, to cooperate. It's why our planet's biology seems so chaotic to your sensors. It's not chaos. It's conversation. The monitoring equipment recorded everything as Ketal's energy form began to shift and adapt. What should have been a hostile reaction was instead becoming a symbiotic relationship. The Earth bacteria were learning to coexist with Ketal's exotic biology, just as Ketal was learning to work with them. News of the experiment spread quickly through the galactic community. The Karnak Empire, still advocating for Earth's quarantine, dispatched observers to witness what they clearly hoped would be a catastrophic failure. Instead, they watched as species after species began careful exposure protocols, each one discovering new ways to strengthen their biological defenses. It's not just about immunity, Sarah explained to a packed auditorium of scientists 3 months later. Earth's microorganisms are teaching us about adaptation itself. They've survived multiple mass extinction events, adapted to every environment on our planet, and developed communication networks we're only beginning to understand. The results were undeniable. Species that underwent controlled exposure were showing remarkable improvements in their ability to survive hostile environments. Some were even developing new capabilities as their biology learned from Earth's microscopic teachers. But not everyone was celebrating these developments. A coalition of conservative species, led by the Karnak Empire, warned of the dangers of such radical biological manipulation. They claimed that introducing Earth organisms into galactic ecosystems could have catastrophic consequences. Their concerns came to a head when a Karnak warship detected unusual readings from their own bioarmor during a routine patrol. The living armor, supposedly the pinnacle of their biological engineering, had begun to change after brief exposure to Earth-adapted species. Instead of breaking down, it was becoming stronger, more resilient, incorporating lessons learned from Earth's evolutionary arms race. The Karnak High Command was faced with an impossible choice: maintain their opposition to Earth's influence and watch their military advantage erode, or embrace the changes and risk transforming their entire civilization. In her private lab aboard the Helios, Sarah received an unexpected visitor. The Karnak ambassador, their bioarmor shifting with barely contained emotion, had come to see the truth for themselves. "How do you do it?" they demanded. "How do you maintain control over such powerful forces of evolution?" Sarah gestured to a simple Petri dish containing ordinary Earth soil. "That's the secret you're all missing. We never had control. We never needed it. What you see is chaos. We understand as balance. Every microscopic battle in this dish has been fought countless times before, reaching equilibrium through billions of years of evolution." The ambassador's bioarmor rippled as they processed this information. "Our entire civilization is built on the principle of control, controlling our environment, our evolution, our future. You're suggesting we abandon all of that?" "No," Sarah replied. "I'm suggesting something far more revolutionary. That true advancement comes from learning to work with the fundamental forces of life, not trying to dominate them. Earth's microorganisms aren't weapons to be controlled or enemies to be defeated. They're the greatest teachers our species ever had." As if to emphasize her point, the monitoring equipment tracking Ketal's progress began chiming with new data. The energy being had just accomplished something previously thought impossible. They had successfully integrated Earth bacteria into their energy matrix, creating a hybrid form of life never before seen in the galaxy. "Evolution isn't just about survival," Sarah continued, watching the ambassador's reaction. It's about possibility. Every crisis, every challenge, every seemingly impossible situation creates opportunities for life to find new ways forward. That's what Earth's microorganisms can teach the galaxy, not how to conquer, but how to adapt, how to grow, how to become something more than what we are. The ambassadors stood silently for a long moment, their bio-armor shifting through patterns Sarah had never seen before. Finally, they spoke. Perhaps it is time for the Karnak Empire to evolve as well. Above them, the Helios continued its orbit around Earth, a planet that had become not just humanity's cradle, but the galaxy's greatest laboratory of evolution. The microscopic warriors that had once terrified advanced civilizations were becoming teachers, showing the way toward a future where strength came not from isolation, but from embracing life's endless capacity for change. The emergency alert echoed through every corner of known space. A dormant threat had awakened. Ancient bacterial spores, released from melting ice on a distant world, were spreading through galactic shipping lanes. Traditional containment measures were failing. Entire species were retreating into isolation, and panic was spreading faster than the contagion itself. In the midst of this crisis, the Helios Research Station had become the galaxy's last hope. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the Emergency Council, her calm demeanor a sharp contrast to the fear pervading the chamber. "What you're proposing is unprecedented," High Counselor Zdixthat's energy form flickered with concern. "To deliberately introduce Earth organisms into infected systems is exactly what we've been preparing for," Sarah finished. "Our microscopic allies have spent billions of years learning to adapt to and neutralize threats. They don't just fight, they transform hostile organisms into partners." The data streaming across the chamber's displays told a stark story. The ancient bacteria were unlike anything the galaxy had encountered, except for one place: Earth. There, similar challenges had been met and overcome countless times in the planet's long evolutionary history. Their energy form, now permanently altered by their successful integration with Earth bacteria, moved forward. I can testify to the effectiveness of Earth's approach. What seems like chaos to our old understanding is actually perfect balance. The Karnak ambassador, their bio-armor now enhanced by Earth-inspired adaptations, added their voice. The Empire's preliminary tests confirm it. Earth organisms don't just defeat threats, they incorporate them, transform them, create new equilibriums. It's everything our civilization forgot about the true nature of life. Sarah activated a holographic display showing the latest experimental results. "We've already synthesized a response using a combination of Earth soil bacteria and adapted strains from Kital's successful integration. The preliminary results are promising." The chamber erupted in debate, but time was running out. Reports were coming in of entire systems going dark as species retreated into desperate isolation. The old methods, quarantine, sterilization, barrier fields, were failing one by one. "Enough." The High Counselor's voice cut through the chaos. "Dr. Chen, you have the Council's authorization. Proceed with the deployment." What followed would be remembered as the Great Transformation. Ships carrying carefully cultivated Earth bacteria spread through the affected systems. At first, nothing seemed to change. Then, gradually, something remarkable began to happen. The ancient bacterial threat didn't just disappear, it was transformed. Earth's microscopic champions did what they had evolved to do over billions of years. They adapted, communicated, and created new forms of balance. Systems that had been on the brink of biological collapse began to stabilize, but in ways nobody had expected. From the observation deck of the Helios, Sarah watched the data stream in. "It's not just working," she reported to the Emergency Council. "It's working better than we anticipated. The transformed bacteria are creating new beneficial relationships with local organisms. They're strengthening entire ecosystems." Kittle's energy form pulsed with excitement as they analyzed the results. "It's like watching Earth's evolutionary history play out on a galactic scale. Every challenge becomes an opportunity for growth. Every threat, a chance for transformation. The Karnak ambassador's bioarmor had never displayed such complex patterns. Our scientists are reporting unprecedented developments. The integrated Earth organisms aren't just protecting our systems, they're enhancing them. Our bioarmor is evolving in ways we never imagined possible. As the crisis subsided, a new understanding began to spread through galactic civilization. Earth's greatest gift to the galaxy wasn't technology or military might. It was the wisdom encoded in its smallest inhabitants. These microscopic teachers had shown the way toward a future where strength came not from isolation or domination, but from adaptation and cooperation. In her private lab aboard the Helios, Sarah added a final entry to her research log. Today marks a new chapter in galactic history. We've learned that true resilience doesn't come from building stronger barriers or developing more powerful weapons. It comes from embracing the fundamental nature of life itself, its endless capacity to adapt, to transform, to find new ways forward. Earth's microscopic champions have taught us that what seems like chaos can be the deepest form of harmony. In their endless dance of adaptation and change, they show us that the greatest strength lies not in standing alone, but in learning to thrive together. The galaxy will never be the same. But then again, in a universe where even the smallest forms of life carry such profound wisdom, perhaps change was always the only way forward. Our microscopic teachers continue their work, not as weapons or threats, but as guides showing us the way toward a future where life in all its forms can flourish together. As she finished her log entry, Sarah looked out at the stars, knowing that throughout the galaxy, countless microscopic allies were busy teaching the lesson Earth had learned so long ago, that in the great dance of life, there are no permanent enemies, only future partners in evolution's endless journey.